Hello and welcome back everybody to the Foodbuild factory, where today we're going to take a look at the bird of prey. That's the guy you can see on screen right now, and as always I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first part of the video, and in the second part we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations and everything else. So what this is going to be about is this is going to be a power armor heavy gunner. I know, very original, but yeah, sometimes we just have to revisit the classics. So what we're going to explore here is first and foremost the executioner's effect. So this is a weapon effect I don't really use all that often, even though it's very good. Like, it doesn't really have any downside, any considerable one at least. The only thing you could really say is that it doesn't really work perfectly for bosses. I mean, in the end, you're going to get your payback viewing a whole fight, but sooner or later, well, not sooner or later, the beginning of the fight will probably drag a little bit. However, for 99% of the game, the executioner's effect, at least on fast-firing weapons, that's where it shines in my opinion, works very well, especially for mobbing. Quite simple. You're pretty, yeah, you're getting a lot of mileage out of your effect. So one very well-known fact about the executioner's effect is, as you probably know, that this effect is still multiplicative. So for all intents and purposes, I'm pretty sure that wasn't intentional from Bethesda. I mean, when one Wasteland dropped, there were a few perks and effects and so on that were still working multiplicatively. So back at that time, yeah, we kind of thought that on some perks or effects, Bethesda just wanted to keep it. However, soon after, I think it was even the very next patch or hotfix, they also removed the or changed the instigating effect from multiplicative to additive. So I guess that executionist is just one that still flows under the radar for some reason. I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine how Bethesda would have not yet noticed this, but yeah, I never heard of any expected changes to that effect, and yeah. So for now, we can at least assume that, at least for the very next time, yeah, the effect will still be like it works now, and I'm sure glad it does, because let's be honest, if it was additive, it just wouldn't be worth the time. This way, however, it definitely is worth the time. As you can see from the gameplay, not that at this point we have faced anything particularly hard, but yeah, the ghouls and enemies so far, they were kind of an easy prey. So yeah, this time around we're probably even going to fight the Scorch Beast, so very exciting times. What this character is going to be about in terms of theme is, yeah, I mean, as you saw, we're going to be a power armor heavy gunner, but what I wanted to try is really make the power armor feel a bit more like something a Wastelander would scrounge together. Now, I mean, obviously, for the most part, that's going to work by using the Scabber armor, which just looks like a bunch of well welded together rebar and scrap metal, which works relatively well for this character. But in addition to that, I just used the Owl Fastnacht mask, which works very well together with power armor. I still think it's a shame that, yeah, there's quite a lot of headpieces actually in the game that always feel kind of ridiculously large when you're using it with regular armor. Like, they almost feel like they would fit way better on a power armor, but yeah, not using power armor, not using a helmet on power armor is a significant disadvantage. For the main reason that, well, first and foremost, you're missing a little bit of damage reduction in addition to damage resistance and energy resistance. But yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I think how it works, I was wrong on that in a previous video, but yeah, damage reduction on power armor apparently works like -6% incoming damage for every piece equipped. including the helmet. So yeah, if you're not wearing a helmet, you're first and foremost not as tanky as you are usually. My aim is horrible again, by the way. And secondly, yeah, one even more major drawback in my opinion is, yeah, you're not having any source of light. It's not super inconvenient in my opinion, because yeah, if you're doing a sneak character, for example, unless you're using the Chinese stealth armor, you're usually not going to use light anyways, and for the most part the game is very bright. What I would recommend still though is having both your mask and the helmet on the quick wheel menu, so if you are in a dark place and want to loot something or something like that, yeah, you can just equip it quickly to light the place relatively easily without having to worry all that much. Now, as you saw here, we took quite a bit of time until the Scorch Beast landed, and we didn't do a whole lot of damage in that time, but once it landed, well, the fight was over very quickly. Yeah, probably because the Scorch Beast was more affected by our explosive portion of the damage, of our damage, and in addition to that, well, our effect kicked in. And yeah, enemies like Scorch Beast, there you can really see the effect working. You barely notice it on regular enemies, unless you're directly comparing the weapon to a similar weapon. For example, I had an anti-armor explosive version that I was using rather than this one, and decided to go with the Executioner's version for the video, just to switch up things a little bit. I don't always want to go with anti-armor. We all know by that point that it's a good effect. Not that most of you guys don't know already what are the good effects and so on, but yeah, I want to go for the Executioner's one, and this occasion here, I think, especially on heavy weapons, for some reason I can't really explain, the Executioner's effect seemed to work very well. So what we are going to do here is, yeah, we're going to fight these robots a little bit, and in the meantime, one thing I wanted to mention is actually, I mean, it's a little minor detail, but I'm pretty sure some of you probably already seen it though, and that is the weapon we're using is a 50 cal, and as you can see, we don't have the heavy barrel mod attached. The heavy barrel mod is, I think, the only modification, except for prime receiver. And by the way, I'm just going in here because I want to go after the legendary mole miner, but I lost it. Hey, you robots can all go. Where the fuck is that guy? Okay. We're getting closer. Here it is. By the way, is this like the 25th mole miner event is here or something? Okay, very great. We're over encumbered now. Is there anything we can drop? Yeah, sure. Cool Slayer, Scatling Laser. We don't need that. Yeah, back to the topic. We don't have the heavy barrel mod attached to the weapon, which is just a plain upgrade. It just increases your damage, and I'm pretty sure when I compared to weapons earlier with the heavy barrel and the standard barrel attached, yeah, the only difference is that the heavy barrel adds a little bit of damage. It does have no downside as far as I can recall. No that it has less range or better accuracy or anything. So yeah, obviously if you want to squeeze a little bit more out of this weapon here, sure, go for it. Go for the heavy barrel. But what I noticed, it was just pretty much just convenience, because I had two weapons equipped that don't have any effects altering their damage, so their damage was very comparable. Is that, yeah, the barrel does add very little, which nowadays with additive damage model rather than the multiplicative one means you're missing out on very little by not using the heavy barrel. It's actually really not all that bad. To give you some numbers here, The anti-armor explosive 50 cal that I had, that had the heavy bell rod attached, that one did 109 damage, and on the Executioner's version I'm carrying here, we will see that later, I'm pretty sure it's 101 damage, so... oh well, it's 94. Okay, probably I was under the effect of adrenaline earlier, that's definitely possible. So, yeah, anyways, the difference wasn't all that great. It was like 8 damage points or something. So, to put that into perspective, obviously on a fast firing weapon with a high ammo count, sure, even those numbers add up. But I wanted to use this situation a little bit by just showing off that nowadays you really don't have to care all that much about the most damaging receivers. It also makes it so in certain situations I also prefer well, quite a lot of mole miners today. I hear another one. You can prefer the receivers that give you extra crit damage, while when the game came out this was never a good idea, even if you went for a full-on Vets character. Yeah, just more base damage. I just keep up. Just more base damage did more in the end. And yeah, I just keep collecting super heavy stuff at the moment. Actually, you know what? I think this one's okay. Okay, no. It's too heavy. Hoarder instincts are kicking in, I'm really sorry. But as you can see here, even with the standard barrel attached, we're not really having any problem when it comes to damage output, even though super mutants go down relatively fast. And it's an extremely fun weapon to use. I mean, shouldn't be to anyone's surprise that a explosive heavy weapon is fun in a video game. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can just point at stuff and it goes boom. So, very enjoyable. And here's my pay to win tent, by the way. I'm going to utilize this. And, well, I'm resisting my inner instincts to go back and just take up all that legendary stuff again. But I would probably be overweight anyways, again. So, yeah. Let's just go for some Blood Eagles in the meantime. Super crazy guys, so they definitely deserve it. And, well, one thing I haven't really shown off so far is using the jetpack in a bit of an offensive way, which you can certainly do. I'm not the most talented guy when it comes to this. You should look up some of the AC 130 builds that people do. It's super crazy when they just stack up tons of Nuka-Cola Quantums and basically fly forever. Especially the PvP crowd that uses it. Those guys can be super talented. Stay in the air for large amounts of times and really are very accurate while doing so. It's just something I'm not really skilled at, as I just said. But if you manage to train that a little bit, you can pull off some really cool trick shots. The weapon works relatively well in that regard, but you'd probably want something more carpet bomber, like explosive Gatling plasma or something like that. Maybe the explosive pepper shaker that's coming out, like not an explosive pepper shaker, but the pepper shaker is coming out. It's a heavy shotgun, as you probably know, and well, it will be able to drop as an explosive legendary. So, okay, he had more stars. I'm going to look at it, but I'm not going to take it up. We have a deal here, right? Ooh, a 2-star. I hope he gets me overweight. There we go, regenerating wood armor. Very hard to resist actually, because it's a super good item, but on this occasion we're going to leave it. I have to make a sacrifice here. By the way, using the jetpack in an offensive way by just flying over enemies and just shooting them from above, it doesn't really have a benefit, to be honest, rather than feeling great. I mean, you can somewhat avoid melee enemies, but it's not like they're a big threat to us anyway, so yeah. I feel like the shots I'm missing aren't really worth it, but it's a lot of fun. Tend to like it. Works a bit better, in my opinion, when it comes to first person, but that's about it. Now, one thing I have to mention, because maybe you're not taking any closer looks at our health bar there, we do have Born Survivor at rank 2, meaning that at 30% health, we're automatically using a stim pack, and we're doing that quite often. So this build is definitely burning through stim packs, but in a raid I would consider maybe not newcomer friendly, but definitely manageable for any high level player. If I had an estimate, I would say in an hour of gameplay where you're going against, super mutants and doing your daily stuff, yeah, you're probably going through like 10 stim packs or something. So yeah, as I said, not really newcomer friendly, but not harsh either. It's just a convenient thing for me here. I didn't really have to invest too much into defensive perks. I could focus a little bit more on a bit of damage stuff and so on. Carry weight stuff, pretty important for this character. Not exactly because there's a whole lot, but I wanted to have bandolier as well as batteries included. So yeah, there are quite some perk points invested here into such convenient stuff. But as you saw here, we didn't really have any problem. Yeah, if there's any downside to this character, I would say it's probably the maintenance cost. You're running through quite a lot of bullets, as well as stim packs, and yeah, even fusion cores can be a little bit of a problem depending on how much you're using your jetpack. But yeah, none of it's really too crazy in my opinion. So definitely a fun little character. I feel like it really fits a kind of a tribal look. Really the Fastnacht Owl mask seals the deal here to not just make us look like a generic raider, but as I said, a bit more of a tribal guy. So anyways, this was the gameplay part of the video, and we're now going to take a look at killing this guy here, and then we're going to take a look at our mutations, and afterwards we're going over the perks and so on. So let's get into it. Here we have it. We do have Adrenal Reaction, Bird Bones, Carnivore, Eagle Eyes, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. Eagle Eyes as well as Carnivore, both not really necessary, just leftovers from other builds, and I thought like the debuffs on this occasion weren't worth the risk. Now Carnivore doesn't have any debuff except we can't use herbivore stuff, so no plant life and so on. But I didn't really want to use any food buffs anyway in this video, so it doesn't really matter. And Eagle Eyes, well, it's a straight strength debuff. We're not using the perception and the crits, so we can just ignore that mutation here. What we have here is Adrenal Reaction, Bird Bones, Marsupial, and Speed Demon. Those are the more important ones. So Adrenal Reaction, as I said during the video, this character basically constantly loses health and regains it, so oftentimes we're spending at around 70-60% of our health, which isn't ideal. We're not getting the full effect of Adrenal Reaction, like ever, unless we're dying, which in that case it didn't help us, right? So on the other hand, we're constantly getting a little bit of a bonus, and that's definitely nice to have. Bird Bones, I really enjoy it because yeah, jumping with power armor oftentimes leads to this little bit of an animation when you're landing, which is just time consuming, and you can significantly tone down on that with Bird Bones. Standard jumps just don't put you into that animation, which is definitely nice to have. And the reduced fall damage works well with the jetpack, so you can glide a little bit longer doing this little jetpack burst. Sometimes you can even regenerate a little bit of AP during your flight. You will just see we have quite a bit of AP refresh going on, and we could even go a bit further with that by just drinking a lot of water. So if we're well hydrated, we will have a bit more AP refresh, but I didn't really bother to do that. Marsupial synergizes nice with the jetpack as well, because first we have our jump, and once we're activating our Jetpack, we're already in a bit of a higher position, but it's always there. Marsupial, pretty straightforward. Also a little bit more carry weight, but yeah, that's just there. And Speed Demon, well, extra reload speed and movement speed never hurts. Additional mutations that you could use here, well, you could go for pretty much everything actually, but yeah, on heavy gunners I just tend to not use a whole lot of mutations. I just don't feel like they're really necessary. So feel free to add whatever you like. Obviously things like healing factor are always a thing, but on this occasion we're relying quite heavily on Stimpaks, so I wouldn't really bother with that. But anyways, let's get on and look at our equipment. Here we do have an Executioner's 50 cal with explosive bullets, so yeah, nothing crazy about it. As I said, standard barrel, standard receiver. You could go for a prime receiver and the heavy barrel, just adding a little bit more damage. Not even sure about the prime receiver actually, how much damage it adds. I think it's not really worth the time on a 50 cal. Relatively regular that you rarely that you see people use primed 50 cals in my opinion. Definitely not as often as on other weapons. But anyways, I do quite enjoy the look of this thing, and I actually prefer the standard barrel in terms of optics. Not sure why, but it just makes the weapon a bit bigger and gives it a bit more finesse, if that works. Have these guys regenerated or something? Because they seem to come out of nowhere. As you can see at range, yeah, not the best weapon. Better to fire small bursts, but anyways. Okay, last look at it. Here it is. And yeah, nothing crazy to say about it. For those of you who are interested, we started with a straight 100% condition. So just repair to full condition, but not to 200% or anything. So yeah, we lost quite a bit during the video, even though we are running Gunsmith, so that's something to keep in mind. However, yeah, condition is still a bit bugged, so no real point in pointing that out here. We do have calibrated shocks just to give us a little bit more carry weight here. We do have a jetpack arm, which is obviously a legacy item, and we do use a medic pump torso, but just so I don't really rely on a legacy in the video, that's not something I want to do. That's basically why I included rank 2 of Born Survivor, so we're not really making use of the medical torso here. We could just pretend that there's a jetpack on that torso, because before that torso even starts to work, yeah, we're getting a Stimpack from somewhere else, and yeah, unless we're really out damaged from something with high fire rate, high level Mr. Gutsies, for example, they can definitely out damage our healing, so yeah, then the medical torso is like a safety net. But for all intents and purposes, that's not really all that crazy. And then we have an optimized right arm, which doesn't do anything for us. It's basically, as far as I can remember, a melee upgrade to just reduce the cost of power attacks. And well, since we can't really power attack with a explosive 50 cal machine gun, we didn't really use it here. So nothing too crazy, I would say. Let's look at the perks here. We do have strength 14, which we use for all the heavy gunner perks, maxed out here for extra damage. Then we have rank 2 of Bandolier, obvious choice. I mean, we're using ballistic ammo here on our main weapon, but there's a lot of other weaponry that works well here. Think about Gatling guns, miniguns, and all of them tend to have quite high ammo consumption. Well, not the Gatling gun, but you want to carry a lot of it. Not a lot to talk about here. Bandolier, pretty straightforward. Then we do have lock and load. Remember to always re-equip this perk after you leave your power armor, or rather if you enter your power armor, because while a few patches back Bethesda made great announcements that they finally patch stabilized, which had the same bug. Basically, if you left your power armor and re-entered it, stabilized didn't work. And it took Bethesda about a year to fix that. And while they were at it, they probably looked at all the other things that don't work when leaving and re-entering power armor, like lock and load, and basically every single reload perk. It's the same with ground pounder, but they decided that yeah, fixing stabilized is probably enough for the first year. We will probably have to wait another 2 years for lock and loaded and so on. So yeah, just for now. I mean, it's not a super crazy bug or anything. It's easy to fix, but um, it's still tedious. Just remember it. You will see it though, because the reload speed is definitely relatively slow on that weapon. Then for perception, as we had in our last build, it's a dump stat. We don't use it in any way, so feel free to use whatever you like here. I just went for concentrated fire. Rank 1 gives me the utility to just um, look at certain body parts of enemies to just see if they're crippled or not. As you can see on the far right, we do have one gun army, so we can definitely use concentrated fire in little bursts to just target specific limbs of enemies. Works relatively well on a sheep squatch, but on the other hand, we can use free aim, so perception really just is there so we can look at the limbs and go more strategic about which limbs we want to target. Straightforward here. With endurance, we are at the fairly, yeah, middle ground, I would say. 7 endurance, life giver, and fireproof. I know life giver isn't the most prominent perk. A lot of people don't really like it. I feel like, yeah, another 45 HP offsets the negatives from adrenal reaction. So, yeah, not a bad choice here. Fireproof, always a good choice. Or at least in most situations, unless you don't really have a dense chest piece that you can use in power armor. So, on this occasion, yeah, fireproof, definitely a good addition. And life giver, well, go for something else if you like. I just wanted to have a little bit of endurance going on, and basically adding life giver just makes it so as if we had, what, 12 endurance or something. So yeah, that's it basically. Charisma also at 7, pretty standard combination here of Lone Wanderer and Tenderizer. Lone Wanderer for extra AP refresh and a bit more tankiness. Obviously, if we're not in the team, which we aren't. The AP refresh is definitely nice. I wanted to have quite a lot of AP refresh going on here. Would also have worked to go for a optimized torso. Not an optimized torso. Um, is it optimized? Could be optimized, I'm not sure. Anyways, the one that refreshes your AP better, but I decided against it simply because I didn't want to do a too OP combination of the jetpack arm and a torso. Just an FYI. And then we have Tenderizer, works very well on this character here. Obviously high fire rate, so basically no target goes down within a single shot, and if it does, well, we don't need a damage buff. But yeah, for 99% of the time, yeah, we're using Tenderizer, and it's a great perk, giving you 10 additional multiplicative damage because it's a debuff to an enemy rather than a buff to yourself or the weapon. So yeah, very nice perk here, more powerful than. Still, it's surprising some people still don't really know about it, so that's why I'm mentioning it, even though 99% of you probably know. And then we have intelligence, which is quite high actually. Um, Not something I do all that often, but on power armor characters I tend to do it. Power user, not necessary, but definitely helps if you want to use the jetpack more often, because you can definitely burn through fusion cores quite fast. Now, one thing to keep in mind, at the moment it seems like power user is bugged. Read several posts about it. I had a slight suspicion that it is, but I didn't really look into it. But yeah, from all I can tell, seems likely that it is. And what people said was that rank 1 works and rank 3 doesn't, so bit of critical perk at the moment, but still I'm pretty sure this will be fixed sooner or later, so yeah, I included it anyways. Then we do have Demo Expert, just giving us a little bit of a boost on our weapons damage, simply because we do have the explosive effect, so yeah, Demolitions Expert giving us a boost in that regard. I mean, it also means we can use things like two-shot missile launchers, use grenades efficiently, but I didn't really do that. I don't really like grenades a lot in this game. Enemies tend to just move around too much and often the hitbox detection of grenades doesn't really work, for me at least, so yeah, I tend to just not use them all that much. I rather whip out a two-shot Fatman or something, if I have one with reduced weight, and just happen to pick up a mini nuke or so on. Anyways, long story short, we do have Demolitions Expert, and that's it. Then we do have batteries included. I briefly touched upon it during the video, but yeah, I carried tons of fusion cores here, literal tons. Not really. It's about 170 or something, but yeah, would add up like 600 pounds or so. So therefore, batteries included is here. Quite simple. Not necessary, but yeah, sure doesn't hurt. And lastly, we do have stabilized. Obviously, one of the most powerful perks when it comes to heavy weapons, provided you're using power armor, which we do on this occasion. Just yeah, 45% extra armor penetration. That's huge. And also, while I praise that on some weapons stabilized isn't as necessary as on others, this is definitely one of the weapons where, in my opinion, stabilized really helps a lot. Using a 50 cal outside of power armor and without using stabilized, yeah, it's really hard to miss something that's even at mid range. You really want to be at close range, and in power armor with stabilized, you can definitely go for things at mid range, just as the last super mutant that we were killing. Yeah, go for little bursts and you can easily take down enemies. It just feels way more accurate, which it is, you know. And then we have agility 10 here with, yet again, something that helps us with our AP refresh. Action Boy here, 45% faster AP refresh. Then we have rank 2 of Born Survivor. Not a lot to talk about here, I already touched upon it during the video. And lastly, we do have rank 5 of Adrenaline, which just never hurts. And on this occasion, well, yeah, we wanted to have some agility going on because, yeah, we wanted to have action points to burn with our fusion, with our jetpack. We're absolutely not optimized to use the jetpack, so basically what you want to do if you want to get the most mileage out of it is basically just pump your agility up as high as you can think. But we didn't really do that here. 10 agility felt like a good sweet spot. We do have sorry, bird bones, so we have a little bit more there. It definitely is enough, so with Marsupial we can basically get on every building and so on just by jumping up and giving us a little boost. That's more like the jetpack works, but as you saw, I sometimes used it in a bit of an offensive way, and it worked quite well. It's just enough. Otherwise, you can definitely go higher with agility though if you want to use the jetpack more. And then we go on to luck. One gun army, definitely not as good as other crippling perks. I mean, nothing beats Enforcer, for example. But on this occasion, yeah, one gun army, it doesn't hurt, definitely. Like, if you're using a fast firing heavy weapon, sure, go for it. It never hurts if you have the points. Actually, I think more often than the cripple chance, I really think that the stagger chance is nice to have. Um, it also feels like the stagger chance procs more often, and yeah, just shooting an enemy that comes at you, they often get staggered a little bit, and they rarely gonna hit you. Like, especially if you're going for single targets, you really feel the difference of using one gun army and not using it. Then we do have Class Freak and Starch Genes. So Class Freak, arguably not super necessary. There's not a whole lot of debuffs that really cripple us, but it sure is nice to have it. And lastly, the Starch Genes, which is just a no-brainer, basically, unless you want to do a really specific no mutations character, which you really have to have a good role-playing reason to do so. Yeah, unless you want to do that, you just want to have Starch Genes sooner or later. And then we're going to take a look at our legendary perks. So the boring ones out of the way: legendary intelligence, strength, and 1 agility here, just to give me a little bit more access to certain perk points. So not a whole lot to talk about here. And the arguably more interesting ones are, first and foremost, far-flung fireworks. Really works with the build. Using an explosive weapon in the first place means you're just used to having explosions going on in your screen. So this adds a little bit of extra damage, and sometimes you get a bit of a bigger explosion. Pretty simple here. Then we do have electric absorption, which is just one of the best legendary perks in my opinion. Obviously it's situational, you have to use power armor, but if that's the case, yeah, I always run electric absorption. I think I never had a power armor character since legendary perks are available that doesn't use it. It's just very good, heals you, charges your fusion cores. So usually the fusion cores aren't really a big selling point, but on this occasion here, actually we're gonna take it because we're burning through a lot of fusion cores, so yeah, why not? And getting healed, especially against super mutants, it works. You always in a crowd have one or two guys shooting with a laser rifle, and on robots it's the same. Um, Assaultrons are basically a free healing, so yeah, that's about it. And lastly, we do have ward rats. So we are still in power armor and get relatively rarely into contact with radiation, so minor things like a bit of water or anything won't really do anything to us in terms of radiation that's significant. But what it's nice as is if you really want to explore um, a nuke zone, for example, even with power armor, you have to take your occasional red away, like every 5 minutes or so. And with water rats at rank 2, yeah, you just don't have to bother. So that's basically it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. No, I'm not going to camp here. I just want to take a look at the thumbnail. I'm not 100% convinced yet. I mean, the red one is cool, but so is the green one, and I think we're going with that. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you had some fun. Tribal week is over, basically. There's definitely more room to explore here. Maybe I'm going to revisit the whole scheme, but for now, at least, we're done. And I have a broad plan for next week. I'm not quite sure yet, though, if it's going to fall through or if I'm going to do it. Maybe I have another idea over the weekend, we're going to see, but as for the moment, the plan for next week is going to be to make a bit of a Fallout New Vegas week, where I'm going to do some faction characters. So obviously very much not lore friendly, but what I want to do is a NCR character, NCR commando character. Then probably I'm going to do a Great Khan, and the last one I had it already, but I think it was an Omerta. I'm gonna have to revisit my characters though. I sure as hell would love to do a Legionnaire, but I tried that in the past, like 1 or 2 times in Fallout 76, and yeah, I was just not really pleased with the aesthetics. But let's see what I'm going to end up with, and till then guys, bye.